Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Pickles and Vodka, the unfiltered mental health podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. I'm Christina, your host, and I'm feeling a lot better this week than I was last week. Let me tell you, I went to listen to the solo episode that I published 6 days ago, and my first thought was, damn, that bitch needs a nap. It's been a hard week. Like I said on the last episode, my car was deemed a total loss. And so this week I've just been working with my insurance company and with the shop to get everything in order. I did decide to take the settlement. And so I'll have to figure something out over the next few months in terms of transportation. In the meantime, my amazing partner and my family have been helping me with rides and stuff. It could definitely be worse, but it's not fun. I've really been running on fumes for the last week. In fact, last night I had the chance to sit down and just do nothing. And it's like my body shut down. Like, is this what my body feels like all the time? Why don't I rest more? So this episode that you're about to hear is a really good one. I recorded with my friends Steph and Lex of Chasing Childhood. It's a podcast where they literally watch old kids movies and then talk about it. And it's so much fun. I've listened to almost every episode. In fact, it was because of them that this morning, Sunday, at like 8 a.m., I found myself watching Shrek 2. No reason, just wanted to do it. I might not go to church anymore, but you could say that the Holy Spirit has been replaced by a big green ogre, and I'm fine with that. So before I jump into the interview I had with them, I wanted to give y'all a little bit of an update. You might have noticed, if you've been following me on Instagram for a while, that I like to publish audio journals every now and then. So the difference between one of my regular solo episodes and an audio journal is that the solo episodes are more structured and edited, while the audio journals are very raw and unfiltered. For instance, if I have a thought that I want to record, I'll just whip out my phone, hit record, start talking, and then forget about it until the next time I'm looking through my recordings, and I'm like, hey, that was pretty insightful, past Christina. I was publishing them to my Instagram for a while, but now that I'm doing the solo episodes every other week, I find myself needing them less. Not to say I'm not going to stop making them. Every now and then I might do an episode where I stitch a bunch of them together, kind of like what I did for episode 41, the Bulimia Diaries, which remains one of my top downloaded episodes of all time, by the way. Like, how scary is that? So, I don't know. I just wanted to let y'all know that I won't be publishing those to the Instagram anymore, but I will be doing the solo episodes every other week. For now, at least. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, now that that's out of the way, I don't really have any other updates. I hope you all are doing well and being safe. I hope you're hugging your fur babies tight and doing something nice for yourself, because February is kind of a rough month. It may be the shortest month, but it just tends to drag on forever. And it's cold and dark. Every now and then you get hints of spring, but it never seems to last. So hopefully this episode will bring you some cheer. As always, if you want to reach out with a comment, just to say hi, or if you want to be a guest yourself, just DM me on Instagram at Pickles and Vodka Podcast, or you can email me at picklesandvodkapodcast@gmail.com. All right, here's my interview with Steph and Lex, and I hope you enjoy. The record button moved. Oh, recording in progress.
Hello.
It started doing that out of the blue, and it scared me the first time it happened. I was with a guest that I did not know at all, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I'm like, hello, Siri, how are you?
Yeah, we're tight.
Who is you?
But thank you.
It's already chaotic, and we've just started.
Your podcast is one of my favorites. Like, I discovered it during prime lockdown, and it brought me a lot of joy. My favorite episodes are the Shrek ones, obviously. Okay, are y'all? I don't think y'all are ready for this. I didn't even plan this. So see this behind me?
Yeah.
These are the lyrics to Smashmouth translated from Aramaic.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm in my sister's room right now, and she's graciously letting me record here. And I got her this for Christmas. I made it for her. And I just noticed it, and I was like, oh my God, how perfect. So
I love that.
It was translated by this person named Isaac Mayer, I think. They spent 4 hours painstakingly translating it into Aramaic and then back in English. Oh
my gosh.
I feel like I should just read it.
Do it.
Yeah.
All right. There was one who said unto me that the universe was going to cause me to tremble, that I am not the sharpest cutting implement in the storehouse. She had the appearance unto me as a stupid one, with her finger and her thumb in the frame of a Greek gamma upon her forehead. Behold, the years begin coming, and do not cease from coming. Fed unto the axioms, and I fell upon the earth and ran. It was not acceptable, if not to live for the sake of pleasurable things. Your brain increases in wisdom, but your heart increases its stupidity. A great amount to do, a great amount to see. Therefore, there's no difficult problem if we take the streets of the backside. You will not know if you do not go. You will not shine if you do not glow. Behold, currently, you are entirely a star child. Begin your power. Go, laugh. Behold, currently, you are a master of the music. Begin your singing. Acquire your wages. All that sparkles is gold. Comets alone shatter the frame.
It's Smashmouth's name, we pray.
Is that not the most beautiful thing you've ever heard in your life?
Oh, it's
in
incredible.
the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Smashmouth.
Amen. Yes, my favorite part is go acquire your wages.
I love that. Interchangeable with girl, get that paper.
Anyway, the listeners don't know who you are. They just know that you're appreciative of Smashmouth.
Yes.
So
right now.
Yeah. So who wants to go first and introduce themselves?
That's Steph.
Oh, okay.
All right, Steph, you're up. Just say your name, how old you are, if you want, where you live, like whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Sure. So I'm Steph. I am 28 years old and I live in Los Angeles, California. I'm originally from Maryland and I moved out here, about 6 years ago. Just super cool. Came out here to act, ended up doing that for a couple of years, got out of it, somehow found a career, pretended to be an adult, and now here I am. So.
That's solid. You sound like you got it all figured out.
No.
Honestly, who does?
Yeah.
Not me. That's why I have a mental health podcast.
So, on that note, I am Lex. I just turned 27 last weekend.
Happy late birthday.
Thank you. I am also from Maryland. Steph and I are cousins. We are about a year and a half apart, a year and 9 months apart.
Year and a month, 1 month.
Oh, yeah.
That 1 month makes all the difference, man.
Clearly, I'm not good at math. I obviously do the podcast. I do a lot of design work on the side. Right now, I am a receptionist at a spine and wellness center.
Ooh, can you fix my spine?
We're so fancy. I can't even fix my own spine. I'm like,
I won't tell anyone. It's fine.
Every day, I'm like, can you guys just come over here and do some on me? And they're no.
It's like if you're an alcoholic and you work at a bar,
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. But I'm sure you've heard her before, but I have a 4-year-old niece that is literally my entire world. I have 2 older sisters. And that's pretty much it right now.
And y'all have a podcast. We won't talk too much about it off the top. Obviously, at the end, we'll do all the plugging and stuff. But tell me about the podcast that y'all do.
No, you go ahead. You sounded like you were way more confident and everything. I'm like, I heard it in your voice. I was like, you go ahead. You got it.
Yeah. So it's called Chasing Childhood. And every week, the two of us rewatch movies from our childhoods or movies from other people's childhoods that they've, recommended. And we watch them and we're like, do they actually hold up as adults? And kind of look at them from an adult lens, which is really, really fun and really chaotic.
It's great. Yeah, I've been reliving my childhood through y'all. Aww. It's great. Yeah, it's a nice break from the present chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we definitely appreciate the support, and we love your
course.
podcast as well.
Yeah.
I was telling Steph, I was like, you gotta listen. She's so good.
It's just going to be like an hour of us all complimenting each other.
I'm here for it. I mean, I accept
Support.
Oh my God, there's
But,
a
like,
cute little cat in the background of
She's got the zoomies right now. Yeah, she's got the zoomies. She's just going in and out.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Steph has
But
a cute, beautiful white fluffy cat in the background for y'all who can't see.
She's so cute. I love Libby.
She's
waiting
cute
for her close-up.
She is.
But yeah, and then another thing that Steph and I actually both have in common is we both studied psychology for our undergrads.
Shut up.
So yeah.
I didn't know this. This is like an added bonus for me.
Yeah. We both were super into psych. Steph, I don't know what you gravitated more towards, but I was more into like sports psychology, like regarding like concussion protocols and mental health in athletes and everything. So yeah, I'm not sure, Steph, what you kind of gravitated more towards.
Yeah, so I originally took up psych because I had been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. And so I was really, really interested in getting into psychology and just understanding kind of more about myself and what does that mean? What does that diagnosis mean? And then as I got into it, I actually got very much into child developmental psychology.
Oh.
And so I really like gravitated towards like kids and how, you know, mental illness affects children, you know, from a young age, and how, you know, a lot of kids can't get diagnosed until they're 18, and just like, how does that manifest in kids, and what are the warning signs, what to look for? And yeah, I really gravitated towards there. And then I went into teaching like super briefly. I think I taught for like a month, and I was like, I can't do this. This isn't quite where I was
the
supposed
hardest
to.
job on earth, besides being an actual mom. I think I could never do it.
Yeah, it was a lot. So I was like, maybe I'm just like interested in this as like a hobby. Like, I don't think this is where I'm supposed to like work.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that everyone should study, I think, because it's a part of everybody. Like everyone has mental health, even if you're not diagnosed with anything. You know someone who is, for sure. And like, it's just a better way of understanding the people around you.
Definitely.
And that's the funny part about the whole thing. Because like when I was studying a bunch of the disorders and addictions and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, this is this person. Oh my gosh, this is totally this person. This is this person. And like, just totally like diagnosing everyone in my head, diagnosing myself in my head. That's why another reason I think psychology is really good for a lot of people to research and just study is because you learn a lot about yourself. We're like also huge advocates for therapy, like for sure, go to therapy. And even if you don't think you have a problem, go to therapy.
Because they'll find problems for you, let me tell you. Well, so I usually ask people how like mental health is talked about in their family. And I know y'all are cousins, but did you grow up near each other or like?
So my mom babysat kids up until I was about 16 or 17 years old. So Steph and I would spend every day after school together. Almost up until that point, up until high school. So we were really close. Like we didn't live super close together, but we had sleepovers all the time. And then we literally saw each other every day at my mom's house because she would babysit Steph and her little brother. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we saw each other a lot. And then I also spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house, and mental illness was sort of talked about, or mental health in general was sort of talked about as something other people needed. And it was very much talked about, I think, as something like, oh, well, you know, they just have like depression. And it was just kind of like brushed off, and like, that was it. And it was like, well, is anybody getting them help? Is anybody like trying to, you know, step in and like be an advocate? And it was just like, you just kind of brushed it off. It was like, oh, well, they're an alcoholic. Oh, well, you know, grandpa clearly has depression, and that's, you know, why he acts the way he does. And there was never like a thought of like, we need help, or we can like talk about this with somebody. It was always very much just, oh yeah, of course, you know, that just explains it away. And then we just rug sweep it and we ignore it for, you know, the foreseeable future. The first, I think, time I ever actually realized you could get help for it was I'm not going to talk too much about it just because it's his business, but we took my brother to therapy when we were kids for anger issues. And it's only like when I'm older, I realized that was actually just like a result of our upbringing. It wasn't really like something the matter necessarily with my brother. It was just that's how he reacted to the abuse in our household. And So that was the first time I understood it. And I didn't think of therapy or anything about it for like years and years. And I never had therapy until I was in college. So
when
it
you're
was
taught that like you don't need it unless there's something severely wrong with you. And I think when you're talking about your grandpa and everything and like kind of brushing people off as their problem, if it were me and I was a kid listening to that, I would feel scared of that happening to me because there's no solution. It's like, oh, he's an alcoholic. Like, I don't want to become that way because like, I don't know. Do you guys feel anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think.
Yeah. On my end, I feel like it was more brushed off and it was more kind of seen as a joke in a way. Like I come from a very, very strict household where my dad is this like traditional Italian guy who like has anger issues. So that's what I grew up with every day. And like Steph said, there is a lot of abuse that went on, but and they like anytime we saw someone outside of the household or even in our family with a problem, it would be more like, oh, she's an alcoholic. Ha ha ha. Like, let's pour more vodka in her drink during family parties and see her just get drunker and drunker. And it's like stuff like that was more what happened on my end. Like it was more of kind of a joke and not seen as something serious, kind of seen more like, oh, this person's weak. This person has a problem. Like let's kind of make fun of it, make fun of them for it and make ourselves feel better doing so.
It's not the kind of normalization you want.
Yeah, not at all.
At all.
And that's like, I don't know if you can hear the children in the background. That was kind of our extended family. Our extended family very much takes like a brush it off, rug sweep it, make fun of it, make it a joke. And then if somebody actually gets upset about the said joke or gets, understandably hurt by it, it very much becomes, well, you're too sensitive. You can't take a joke. It's your problem. And that's also not something you want to normalize because everyone's feelings are valid. And it's totally understandable to have that sort of reaction when somebody prods, your softest point. So,
and we had people in our family who went years without speaking to each other. And that was another kind of lesson we learned growing up of what not to do. Like we kind of are more, if we have an issue, Steph and I will address each other with it or address the person with it. But we've had people in our family not speak to each other for years because of something that was said. Yeah.
Like different combinations of people will like, just like have a huge blow up out of like all these unresolved issues. And then they won't speak for years. And everybody just like, is like, oh, that's just them. Like, that's just what's going on.
Right.
It makes me anxious just hearing about. Like, I mean, you had contacted me, or you sent me a message around Christmas, I think, saying that you like take edibles before family gatherings. I thought that was so funny. But also, like, it's the same. I mean, I have a big family too, where we all tend to joke around rather than talk about like serious issues. Like, I had my brother on the podcast like 2 years ago, and we an hour in, I was like, we've been joking around and haven't even touched the questions yet. Like, what is that? Let's talk more about that.
Yeah.
So when did y'all start like talking about it? Just among yourselves, I guess.
So talking about mental health or talking about like taking edibles before family gatherings?
Both.
So we probably started taking edibles before family gatherings around like 2 years ago. And I shit you not, the day that we took edibles for the first time and like at a family gathering, we learned the most tea about our family that I think we've ever learned ever. It was actually insane.
Well, because like all the cousins did it. So like all of like our generation, we all did it together. And then we all like sat down behind like a pool table behind and like in my parents' basement. Like we all thought we were so clever and like hiding. And we're all sitting in a circle.
Wait, so you were hiding each other tea. Adults?
Yeah.
Well, we are adults, but we were acting like we were like 5 years old. We were just like hiding from them, like they don't know.
That's amazing.
We're all sharing tea from each family.
We are like we all dispersed and then learned something about the family and then came back and shared with the group. It was like my favorite thing ever.
That's such a great visual.
It was so good.
Just like mice or roaches or something, just scattering.
Yes. And I think the best part about that is that like my cousin had just brought her boyfriend home for the first time. And so like he and like my other cousin's girlfriend, like, were there for the first time, just sitting in the circle with us. And so, like, this is their first time meeting our entire family, and we're all high, and we're just like giving her the most tea, just like, grandma did this when she was younger, and grandpa did this. And it's just like, it's insane. Like, they probably
are they still in the fold?
I would not be surprised if we never see them again.
They're still around. They're still around. They want more tea. They're waiting for the next gathering.
Right. Nice. They're hooked.
So how often do y'all see each other now? I mean, you talk all the time, obviously. You have a podcast together.
Yeah, we see each other like twice a year, I think now. Whenever I get to come home, I think is when we usually see each other.
Yeah, because I'm a 3-hour drive from Maryland right now. So anytime Steph's like, I'm coming home this weekend, I'm like, all right, I'll see you there.
Nice.
I wasn't invited, but I'm coming.
Oh my God, that's how I am with my siblings. We're like all up in each other's business. I just moved. I'm in Virginia. I just moved here from Seattle, and my whole family's here on the East Coast, so it's so nice to be with them. Even with all the drama.
The East Coast.
Yeah. So excited. I am not a West Coast girl at all. Sorry, Steph. I'm just not. I mean, LA is a different animal for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I just say, I was so mad yesterday. My cousin, did you guys get any of this snowstorm that we're supposed to be getting?
A little bit. We got a little bit.
Okay. So my niece yesterday, she got off school completely for the entire day because of the threat of ice. It was raining all day, and they were like, it might freeze over.
Yep.
Let's let the kids off of school. Meanwhile, I was like, in elementary school, the literal DC sniper was out, and they were like running a zigzag pattern. And I was like, she got off because of the possibility of ice, which is like just me being salty, but still.
Oh my God. Yeah, I feel like kids today are a little more sheltered. I don't know. That's good and bad.
And I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like good. Like I'm jealous of them. Like I wish we had that, you know?
Yeah.
I wish our school system cared. Like,
yeah. I mean, I'll be 30 this year, but I was homeschooled, so I didn't really get a lot of the like school experience. But I look at kids now and I'm just like, look at you with your cushy school and I don't fucking know what I'm trying to say. But.
It's fine.
I got you.
Yeah. I went to elementary and middle school in like a private, very Baptist school where like literally we had 2 teachers that decided to date, and one of them got fired because they found out that they had like premarital sex or something. Somehow someone found out, and they literally kicked him out of the church and out of the entire school. And then when I went to high school, it was a completely different ballgame. It was public school. It was PG County public school, like where literally one day I was walking down the hall. One of my friends was getting arrested. Another like walked around the hall again, turned a corner, and there was like a huge fight that broke out. It was just like every single day was something. And it was basically like I went from being so sheltered and having literally a 1 hallway middle school to being around like 1,000 kids in 1 grade. Like,
that's a lot. And at what point did your own like mental health issues start coming up, or have you said anything about that yet? I'm sorry, I'm like all over the place.
No, you're fine. You're fine. We all are. we're just excited to be here and like we're
chaotic on a good day.
Well, yeah, that's okay. We can just chill here and talk about whatever we want.
Yeah. So I definitely started suffering from depression in middle school. But I don't think it was that detrimental to I don't even know how to describe it. So I don't think it was that severe. I would just all of a sudden, like the teen angst, I would go to school and be like, oh yeah, I just listened to the new Paramore last night, or like the new Creed. And because I feel like in elementary school and like middle school, when emo was a thing, I kind of like tried to conform to that and like say, yeah, I'm depressed too, but I really wasn't. And I would say that it was probably around my 7th grade or 6th grade year that I really actually started getting very depressed because my sisters, like I said, I have two older sisters. They're 5 and 7 years older than me. So there was one weekend where they both went off to college at the same time.
Oh my God.
And it was just me in the house. And all of a sudden I went from living in a 3-girl household to being an only child, basically. So, like I said before, a lot of the anger and abuse around me fell onto me all of a sudden. And so that's when I started feeling more like a punching bag and feeling more like, okay, like worthless and like I don't really matter. And all throughout elementary and middle school and high school, I literally played soccer all the time. Like I was huge into sports, soccer, softball, whatever I could do. But soccer was like my main thing. So I wish I could say that was an outlet for me, but my dad was also my coach.
Oh,
so,
shit.
Yeah. So
plot twist.
Yeah. So it was literally like no escape from it. And then it would change. So I would go from being yelled at for getting a C on a homework assignment to going to soccer practice and then getting yelled at for what I did wrong at soccer practice. And so stuff like that, it definitely weighed on me. And then when I got to, I think, my senior year of high school, I decided to kind of take the reins back and be like, I'm going to avert the expectations of my parents because they wanted me to go to college for soccer and get a scholarship and everything. But I really loved softball. So my way of kind of like sticking it to the man was being like, I'm going to play softball in college and you guys are going to have to deal with it. And that caused like a huge thing within our house. That was like, they were like, we spent all this money for you to play soccer and now you're going to play softball. And I was like, I love it. Sorry. Like,
love the guilt. The guilt tripping is great.
Yeah.
Very healthy.
It's very healthy. So yeah. And then I would say probably in college, I started suffering more from like, I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic, but I definitely was drinking too much. I definitely was having too much sex with people that I didn't even know really. And then from there, I think my mental health really started improving when my sister had my niece, because I was like, I'm pretty sure Steph could probably relate to this too. Like when you have a little baby that just joins your family, and like me and my sister are really close. I live with her right now. When she had my niece, I was like, okay, everything's changed. Like I'm no longer giving my attention to men that I cannot introduce her to, men that wouldn't be good to her. And like, I'm her godmom. She's literally my whole world. The whole first year that we had her in the house, I act like she's like a dog. I'm like, the first year that we got her.
When we were crate training her, that was a rough time.
When she came on Amazon, when her Amazon package came, I was so excited. And I would literally go from, I would nanny her. So I would nanny her all day, go to classes for college in the afternoon, and then go like hang out with my friends at night after that. And then on the weekends I would waitress. So
that's busy.
So after a while of doing that, I don't do well at staying still. Like I always have to be feeling like, I listened to one of your episodes and you said the same thing. And I was like, I always have to feel like I'm doing something productive.
It's really hard. Without drugs, especially, it's really hard.
But yeah, so I would do all that. And then I started I feel like I didn't realize how bad my mental health started getting again because I was spreading myself so thin.
Yeah.
That my physical health started suffering. So I developed IBS, which is not fun to have as someone who constantly gets stressed. And then I also started developing psoriasis on my scalp, which is something that is not fun at all, like itching all the time, like getting dandruff and stuff. So for me, my mental health correlates basically with my physical health, which is a lot of people. But if my mental health gets really bad, I start noticing it in my physical health, like almost instantly.
That's not something that's really talked about a lot. Like you think they're so separate, but they're not.
Body knows. It just knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. And like today we were kind of late because I mean, I had like I said before, I had a rough week. And one of the things that happened was, I mean, my grandpa's in the hospital right now. And
Oh, I'm sorry.
yesterday, I had an aunt that passed away, and it's okay because we kind of knew it was coming. But it still hurts and we're still like dealing with that. But I noticed this morning I was like sleeping too much and I woke up and my head was a little itchy and I'm like, no, like
your body can smell it coming.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
So yeah, that's pretty much my journey in a nutshell.
I have so many questions, but I want to ask Steph also like where you were this time and like how your own experiences kind of mirrored or not mirrored what Lex was going through at the time.
Yeah. So Lex already said, I grew up in a house with a brother. Both of my parents were alcoholics when I was a child. So my dad, especially, I grew up in a house where my dad was also a bully, a really big bully. He has a lot of mental health issues himself. Like I think a little bit of covert narcissism. He is very depressed. He has a lot of anxiety, and it just manifested in a way that he could kind of punch down on everybody else. And I think it was easier for him to especially punch down on my mom. And so my mom also has her own traumas and issues that she hasn't worked out. And so she would then take that out on us. So it was just like a filter down effect.
I see a theme here.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It's a filter down effect. So, you know, he took it out on us and on her. And there was a lot of emotional, verbal, physical abuse in our household from both of them. I will not give my mom a pass on this because she was equally as terrible. But yeah, so it was just a lot of that as a kid, and then going to people's houses. And, you know, at the time, Lex said, you know, when we were little, I would go to her house all the time, and my dad would come to pick us up, and my brother and I would just fall apart when we would have to be picked up, because we did not want to go back to that house. We did not want to go back to that environment. And we were having so much fun, and like people were nice to us there. And we had, you know, Lex and her sisters, you know, they were our friends, and we, you know, felt safe there. And so, you know, we would have to go back to that home and just everything would be terrible. And a lot of it was sort of, I think we would align with my dad because he was the bigger bully. And so if you align with dad, you're safe, and you can also pick on mom, and you can also pick on each other, and he sort of triangulates you, right? Like, you know, you're all going against somebody, but you always have to be on his team, because if you're not on his team, then you get the wrath from him.
A lot of mind games, it sounds like.
It's all mind games. It's all mind games. And I think
it's all survival, I feel like, too, on your end. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of survival. And I think a lot of it is I think the worst part is realizing now as an adult that I don't think he knew he was doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't think he understood what he was doing, because he had his own traumas that he was also trying to just cope with. And I think kids were a stressor and they were a trigger for him.
You know, being a parent is the scariest idea in the world. Like,
it's so scary.
I don't know why everyone isn't more fucked up than they are, honestly.
Yeah. And I think, no, it's not, but it's true. Yeah. But it's true. I mean, that's a huge thing. I'll talk about it in a sec, but like, that's why I got into therapy, is like, if I'm going to be a parent at any point, I need to unwork all of this before I even take that step. So yeah. So when I was a kid, I started to show signs of just like weirdness, and my parents just sort of chalked it up as like, oh, she's just, you know, different or weird or like excitable or what have you. And I was experiencing delusions. I was experiencing very mild hallucinations. I had a lot of paranoia, a lot of anxiety. I would slip into just patches of huge depression where I couldn't do anything. Nothing made me happy. And then my parents would make it worse by saying, you're pathetic, you're helpless, you're hopeless. Just a lot of bullying. And when I hit high school, I started to notice that it was really impacting my ability to just do anything. I couldn't sleep. I was having panic attacks every night. I would stay up until 2 a.m. just because I was so scared every single night that there were demons in my room or things watching me from the walls. And I would just basically have to exhaust myself into falling asleep. And
That's
so
terrifying.
Yeah, it's really scary. And it came to a head my freshman year of college when I had a horrible delusion and really believed that my cats were trying to kill me and that they were like plotting to murder me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
I finally I like looked it up online because I got myself a computer with like my little like earnings from my summer job at like a yogurt shop. And I like bought myself a computer and I looked up online and I like joined some forum and just like posted what I was experiencing. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't feel like this is normal because nobody else around me is really talking about this. And I was like, and I've always been told, oh, you just have a big imagination. You just have a big imagination. Mm. And when I posted that, people were like, you need to go see somebody. Like, this isn't normal. And so I remember like walking into my parents' room and telling my mom, I think there's something wrong. I think I should go. And this is where I talked about my brother saw a therapist. I think I should go see that therapist because I think there's something wrong. I feel like the cats are trying to hurt me. And my mom was like, what? Like, what? Like my parents, because they were so focused on each other and so focused on like their horrible marriage and they're fighting constantly, they just didn't pay attention to any of the signs, none of them. And they didn't notice anything. And so me bringing this up was like fully like, my mom was like blindsided. She was like, oh, what do you mean? What do you mean you've been going through this? And it was
were you out of the house by then or were you?
I was in college. So I was visiting home. I think it was winter break. So it's been almost exactly 10 years since I started therapy. Like I just passed my 10-year mark. So
snaps to you.
Thank you.
That's what we do in the psych ward. We snap for people.
Yes. So she actually like just texted me. She's like, can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. But yeah. So I brought it up and I went to therapy and I had like a very actually like bad experience getting diagnosed. The guy who ran the full like psychological center gave me basically tests. I did like an IQ test. I did a test for schizophrenia. And I went through the whole test and he kind of talked to me like I wasn't there when giving the news to my parents. And so he was like, oh yeah, I ran her through the test. And you know what? I even put in some red herrings just in case she was faking it. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm 18. I'm not stupid. Like, don't talk to me like I'm not here. Like I was literally so bad. I was like, that's freaking rude.
Really alarming.
Yeah. And he's like, so I put that in just in case she was faking. And he goes, but she blew right through them. She's not faking. Like, this is absolutely happening to her. And I was like, but like, that's rude. Like first of all, F you, buddy.
Especially as someone who runs a mental health practice or that's the like, opposite of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I get it. I get that you're supposed to like suss out, you know, if somebody is just doing something for attention, but I don't like the mentality that like, you should assume that this teenage girl is doing this for attention and not because she's actually very scared and actually going through a lot. I don't know if you can see the cat is moving the microphone.
Something you said earlier about how kids often can't be diagnosed till they're 18. That really made me curious because obviously kids have mental health problems. And I don't know. That's just scary to me that what are your thoughts on that? Because you both studied psychology. You both are involved with children, you know? I don't know. I don't know a lot about the practice as it pertains to children and like how the diagnosis like process is different.
Yeah. So there's a lot of disorders, especially personality disorders that they really don't diagnose until you reach 18 because they think that like, oh, the brain is still forming, you know, the kid could grow out of it. And I think, yes, there are definitely instances where you behave a certain way or believe certain things and you can grow out of it. You know, a fear of the dark, you can grow out of that. You know, a constant need for your blankie, you can grow out of that. But I think when a child tells you that my biggest thing that my parents realized later is everywhere I would go in the house, I would turn all the lights on. And it didn't matter if I was going in there for like a quick second. I had to have all the lights on. There could not be any darkness because I had delusions about the darkness. And even at 17 years old, I still had a nightlight because I was so scared of being in complete darkness. And there was just little things. It's like, at what point do we start to recognize like, you're not growing out of this, you know, you're not getting over this. Something actually is wrong. I had issues.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Go ahead. No. I was just going to say, I also had issues like staying home alone. Like I could not be in a house alone. I would have full mental breakdowns just being in a house alone because I was alone with the delusions and the paranoia. And my mom would just get angry. She would just like I would call her and be like, you need to come home. Like I can't be here by myself. We also lived in a house in like the middle of the wilderness. And I was like, please don't leave me here.
Oh my God. That's
but like she would get angry instead of being like, oh, well, like, what's wrong? What are you afraid of? And like, how can we like talk through this? It was just like, I can't believe this. You said you were going to be fine. Like, it's just more anger. And then later when she's an adult, or when I'm an adult and I'm talking about it and she's like, oh, this was that. And I'm like, amazing if we just pause and ask.
Well, that's what I was literally going to say with Lex. Like you felt like you had to keep busy and do, distract yourself with all this stuff because it was like you didn't, I mean, I don't know. Did you feel like, what were you afraid of if you stayed quiet or just like,
I think my own thoughts and the feeling of not doing enough, or like I said, my entire upbringing, I basically felt worthless. So I feel like in staying busy and working towards something constantly or trying to, it kind of gives me the feeling of like, okay, you're valid. Okay, you're doing this. You're actually putting effort towards something. So that means that you're doing well. You know what I mean?
You scored a goal. You're valuable.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys both give off like hardworking vibes.
Yeah. But I'm not kidding. I literally, and I'm sure Steph has too, I started nannying when I was 13. Like I literally would walk up the street to this house and I would nanny infant twins and they're like 7-year-old. Yeah. And their 7-year-old brother. And I even like have trauma from that job too, because like there was one time where one of the babies, while I was bathing the other one of the babies had gotten a cord wrapped around her neck somehow. So like my instincts just jumped in. I was able to like unplug the cord from the wall and get it out from around her neck. But stuff like that. And now I feel like that traumatizes me towards my niece, because now I'm like, okay, she has my full attention. And there was like one time where my niece fell off the bed on my watch and like hit her head on something. And I was a wreck for like a week because I was like, this happened on my watch. So, but back to like what you said, it's very much one of those things where I feel like if I stop, I'm worthless. Or if I don't accomplish something, like I'm huge at making lists in my head of tasks that I need to do. So if I do not get through that list, I feel like I haven't done enough, and I start doing the self-deprecation and I start feeling worthless again. So it's pretty much.
Did you two ever connect over these insecurities when you lived in the same area?
I don't think so, because there was a little time when we both were in high school and we were both kind of experiencing our own trauma separately, because I didn't even know half the stuff that Steph just told you about. There was a little bit of a time period after my mom stopped watching her that we kind of lost contact for a little while. We would always like reach out to each other every now and then and see how each other's doing. But it wasn't until probably the end of college that we actually reconnected again, and we're like, hey, you were my first best friend. Let's like keep this train going, like we were kind of like, hey,
that's when we really like,
there.
That's when we really started confiding in each other. I feel like that's when we really started being like, no, actually, like this is really shitty. Like my dad said this, or my mom did this. And we really started to actually like tell each other what was going on, because our family, everybody presents an absolutely perfect front. If you are not like fully got it together, it's fodder, right? It's fodder for everybody else to talk about or gossip about or make fun of. And so anywhere we would go, any type of like family gathering, it was like everybody has to totally behave. And, my dad has to like keep himself in check. He has to be the funny guy, the cool uncle who sits in a chair and tells like a quick joke. And my mom is the gossip, but she means well. And she really like cares so much. And, my brother and I are just off doing our own thing. And it was very much like, you have to present this total facade.
It sounds like everyone has kind of like a role they're supposed to play.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even, Lex's family as well, all of the families. And then you'd go home and my mom was terrible about involving me in adult matters. So she'd be like, oh, well, did you know that like your uncle said, was actually doing this, or your aunt has this problem? And I'm like, everybody seems so chill though, like at the family event.
Yeah. Damn, that's definitely something that would go on. We would be like, we would go to a family event and there's one family that would be like, oh, my daughter played the best team in the state this weekend.
Everyone's bragging.
And
Pressure.
Our moms are our moms are from a family of 7 kids.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of
how your cousins, like, so your moms are sisters?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So our moms are the oldest in the family, and they basically helped raise their siblings because my grandma would work and my grandpa would work, and
hair bunnies.
My grandpa was a character. He would or our grandpa. Why am I like grandpa? He's only my grandpa.
I mean, you can have him if you want.
I'm good. He was a character. He was one of those people who had diabetes but kept candy in his pocket at all times, and
I really relate to that kind of person.
He faked a lot of his like issues for a while.
And, he was an interesting character. He would tell you about how he taught Michael Jordan how to play basketball.
We're like, no, you did not.
We're just like, no.
Oh my God.
No,
that is untrue, sir.
Like, what are you on?
So but I do I'm sorry. I'm just.
No, you're fine.
No, ask questions.
You all have a really colorful family, obviously.
Yeah.
Like a lot of. I'm wondering when you started kind of taking matters into your own hands and like finding role models, I guess, or like when did you start taking charge of your mental health? Because you said you kind of had sports as an outlet, but that is kind of charged in and of itself. And Steph, we haven't even talked about your acting yet and like moving away from home.
Yeah,
I think when I moved out of the house, when I moved to New Jersey with my sister, is when I really started taking charge of my own life and started branching out and doing what I want to do, because my sister presented this opportunity for me to escape from a toxic household and where I basically felt worthless all the time and like I was a punching bag. So I was able to get that release. And my sister would even tell you, when I first started living with her, my attitude was completely different. She was like, you were very combative, you were very aggressive, you were very like sheltered off, and like if somebody said something to you, you would always take things personally. And I was like, yeah, because that was the environment that I was in for so long. But now that I wasn't in there and I was able to escape, I was able to branch out and be who I want to be and kind of look at things from a different angle.
That's so true.
Exactly.
Like, that's a whole process.
Right. And like right now I'm still trying to figure out like obviously what I want to do with my life. I'm like 27. It's one of those things where I'm like, I'm old enough to know, but I'm too young to know. So it's kind of like I'm in that middle ground right now. But overall, I just want to be a good person and I want to be able to treat people with respect and hopefully get that in return. But I mean, I understand. But yeah, I mean, just getting away from that toxic environment where someone would come home from work after a bad day and just make you feel like crap. Like that was
the definition of unsafe, but you don't realize that when you grow up in a crisis mode, you're like, this is normal.
Yeah, exactly. So like my dad, I think you spoke about this in one of your former episodes, how you were like, nobody has a job for like 40 years anymore. My dad was literally that. My dad worked at a grocery store from the time he was 16 up until about a year ago when he had a stroke. And it's like, up until then, he worked for the same company. And that is insane to me. Like, my parents have also been together since my mom was 16 and my dad was 19. And I'm like, I couldn't even imagine marrying the person I was with when I was 16.
No.
I did.
Like, yeah.
I just like hit myself in the back.
Oh no, are you okay?
No, I'm fine. It's just, I'm old. And so I'm getting, speaking of bad backs, I'm just like constantly adjusting and like, just don't mind me.
I recommend a Theracane. Like, for my job, I'm like, Amazon has them. There's a gun. There's a massage gun that you can get.
We'll talk after this.
Yeah. Well,
I'll hit you up. Steph, Steph, what about you?
Is it your cervical, thoracic, or lumbar?
Let me see. Oh shit, I don't know. But yeah, sorry. Steph, what about you? Like, when did you start kind of taking charge of your mental health?
So my outlet was theater. No surprise. I did my first ever school play when I was like 5, maybe 6. And then from there, I joined like a local theater group. I love to sing, I dance. So I was very artistic. I did sports here and there, but like nothing ever really stuck until I hit cheerleading, which is ironically a combination of like gymnastics and dance, which is already what I wanted to do. So I did competitive cheerleading, less like we did some sidelining when I was in high school, but like we were competitive. So like we would travel around, we'd go to competition, very Bring It On. If you've seen Bring It On, very much listen to our Bring It On episode.
Yeah.
All right. I have to watch it first.
But yeah, so it's just a lot of competition. So that really kept me busy. It gave me an outlet with friends and everything. But like Lex, I don't think I really understood or took charge until I left home. So I left home at 18. So once I got to college, I did not move back in with my parents at all.
I think we all have that in common.
Yeah, I was out.
Yeah.
I would come home for like, breaks, but I didn't have anywhere else really to go until my now husband, at the time he was my boyfriend, until he got his own place off campus. And then I would stay with him for a lot of it. That actually ended up being a major meltdown with my mom, because as I started to really pull back and be like, no, I'm my own person and these are my boundaries and I'm an adult now and I'm making decisions for myself, she really could not handle like letting go of that and being like, oh, I have no input now. And the only input she had at the time was financial, because I was paying for my room and board at school. And then my parents were taking out loans to pay for my education. And I went to a state school and I went to like a commuter college. So it wasn't like it was massively expensive, but I couldn't have paid for that on my own because I had been so far under her thumb that like I didn't know how to do anything like that for myself. I didn't know how to get like a really cool part-time job other than the one that I had on campus, which didn't pay a lot.
That's the thing. No one does.
Yeah.
And
like,
they don't
especially
teach you
without a ton of older siblings or like older cousins or whatever to look up to. No one really knows what to do. You would kind of have to stumble into it.
Right. You have to stumble into it and you don't know what to do, but then everybody's mad at you for not knowing what they didn't teach you. And that was a huge thing. They're alway mad at you.
Hard.
They're always mad at you. And it's like, well, nobody has taught me how to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. So it ended up being a major falling out because between junior and senior year, I wanted to move in with him. He plays rugby. So it was the rugby house and he was captain of the team and everything and president. And so he was like, you can just move in with me. It's fine. Like you can pay like a little bit of rent. His mom owned the house. His parents were like dipping into like the real estate market. So they owned the house. And so he was like, you can just pay like a little bit of rent or just clean. He goes, I don't care if you just clean up after all these boys, like it's fine. Like that'll be your rent.
Sounds like a decom right there.
Right.
Right.
I did. After college, I did move in and I cleaned up after like 5 boys constantly.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's traumatic. But it ended up being a whole thing. My mom told me that she wasn't going to pay for my senior year of college, that I would have to drop out, that I wouldn't be allowed to graduate if I moved in with him before he proposed to me. And she's like, you can't move in with him. He hasn't proposed. So I'm not going to pay for your college. It was a huge fight and it was so manipulative and it was like so combative. And all I really wanted, I was like, I just think this is like a smart move. And like, I want to move in with him. I know I'm going to get engaged to him. And I did senior year. So it was like, it ended up not mattering. But once we got engaged, I moved everything out of my on-campus apartment and in with him. Like it was a whole thing. And I was like, what was the point of this? I waited 6 months. Like, come on. It's going to have been 6 months that I saved money.
Sometimes young people know, like, trust young people sometimes.
Yeah.
People act like, I don't remember what exactly you said just now. Like, they're mad at you for not knowing what they didn't teach you.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I don't know. I know so many amazing younger people, like my 2 younger sisters. They're like 8 and 10 years younger than me, and they are killing it, and they're struggling and figuring stuff out. And I'm just like, I don't know how you do it. That's was like my first big boundary that I think I ever tried to like set with her, and it exploded so dramatically.
And then I think more came as I got into like the wedding planning process right after college and all of that. So, and then literally, God, like 5 months after we got married, we were like, we're moving to California. And
Yeah.
that like literally like that whole summer we just started doing it. And that was another huge boundary because they were like freaking out. They were like, well, you're not going to be around. What are we going to do? What if you have kids? We're not going to see them. And I was like, I'm literally 22 years old. Like let's not jump ahead.
That's crazy. That's so young.
And I was like a child bride. Like I was a baby. So we moved across the country, and ever since then, it has just been like reinforcing boundaries. And there's been blow ups since then. Like my mom has had issues with just not being in control anymore, but it's been just a lot of training her. And I think at some point my therapist and I transitioned out of like talking about my schizoaffective disorder and then eventually transitioned to, she's like, you have a lot of like trauma. Like I can tell you are a child of trauma. And she's like, I think we need to unpack this. And so ever since like, I think the last like 5 years has been a lot of like boundary setting, unpacking childhood, unpacking like a lot of the abuse. And, I feel like I've gotten so much more even out of like this last 5 years than I did like when we were talking about like ways to help the schizoaffective disorder, which was important. But like this has been like way more useful and eye-opening.
But it took you that time to get there. Like these things can't happen overnight when you grow up with this stuff as a child. Yeah. I mean, Lex, like where are you now with your process with that unpacking your childhood, so to speak?
I think
the nervous laugh.
And it's okay to not be okay here, like, right now, freezing. You know?
I'm like, I don't want to turn the heat on in my car because I don't want to like have the sound from the heat going.
Oh my God. Are
mic.
You freezing?
But I'm like, can you see that? Like, can you see it?
Oh my God.
But it's okay. Right now, I am still unpacking a lot. One of the biggest things that I've been struggling with recently is dealing with a lack of empathy growing up because I find myself sometimes if someone comes to me with an issue, I kind of selfishly on my part, I kind of think more like, oh, well, my first thought is suck it up. My first thought is you can get through this, just stay strong, which is like easy to say, but kind of invalidates someone else's emotions. And I need to get better at that. That's one thing that I've been working at a lot recently because growing up, I didn't have empathy from
look at
anyone
your family.
in my family.
You know, it sounds like there wasn't a lot of empathy there with either of y'all.
Yeah. Like, for example, there was one time during a soccer game where I literally broke my jaw and I came running off the field and we lost and I got yelled at because we lost. And I was literally sitting there like holding my jaw in so much pain. And then when I got home, like my older sisters, like I said, comedy is something that we all kind of use to get over our traumas. And my sister would like, I had broken my nose before and she would like do this thing where she was like, I'm Lexi. And like, it was like, I was so mad at the time. Now I kind of look back and laugh because it is kind of funny to like look at someone who had like a broken jaw and a broken nose, but then like, there's the lack of empathy. There's someone who literally kicked me while I was down. So stuff like that happened a lot growing up. And I'm sure you have siblings, you can relate, but it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, my dad used to say, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. And I'm like, literally now all I try to do is be more empathetic and like try to not pass that on to anyone else. But it's very hard because that's the whole upbringing that I had.
That's a good kind of final point to talk about, I guess, is humor and the role humor has in all this. Cause y'all have you have your podcast is funny. It's entertaining, but you know, you both have gone through and continue to go through a lot of trauma, and humor kind of is a double-edged sword, I think.
Yeah.
For you, Lex, at least. And, you know, it sounds like both of y'all. So
yeah,
I don't know. Do you ever find yourselves still slipping back into that habit of joking about it too much or? I don't know what I'm trying to ask here.
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes.
I think I went through like a really long period where I used a lot of self-deprecating jokes. And I mean, I still do sometimes, but like I'm trying to like really practice now using actually like the opposite, where I like have like God complex jokes, or I'm like, actually, I am the greatest at this. But like it's helpful because if I use the self-deprecating jokes, they are almost too borderline what I used to hear growing up.
It's too hard to.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
For me, I do find myself kind of sometimes like I feel like now I have a very morbid sense of humor. So like it's like the weirdest things make me laugh now. And I do realize that like some of that is stuff from my childhood, or like rooted somewhere in my childhood. But like Steph said, I've been trying hard to kind of focus that more into like less deprecative comedy. I'm sure, I mean, one of the things that sticks out the most to me is when we were at my grandpa's funeral, my grandpa, who we brought up before, and we were kind of like, we were all like laughing at the funeral parlor, and everyone was like everyone who didn't know us were kind of like, what the hell is going on? And we're just like, we're sharing stories, and we're like, hey, like, remember that time grandpa blamed a bunch of mice on stealing the Christmas candy, but like really he ate all of it? And like, just like stuff like that. So I feel like humor in a way can be very bad if used the wrong way. But I also feel like humor in a way is very therapeutic. At least in my sense, I feel like I feel like comedy is very like, hey, this bad thing happened to me, but I'm going to try and remember the funny times that I had with this person, or the things that made me laugh about this person, or like I'm going to try to find some sunshine in this darkness, you know? So it's kind of like
any of us can do.
Yeah. So for me, comedy in stressful situations is kind of one of those things that does bring joy, or is kind of like a what's it called? A coping mechanism, you know?
Yes. all three of my brain cells are like firing right now.
Right. So yes, I think like Steph said, if you're doing the self-deprecation comedy, and you're kind of like picking at yourself and doing it in like a negative light, it definitely picks away at your mental health. But if you try to keep it more positive and focus on the good things, that's more helpful. You know,
that is such an amazing segue, because I wanted to ask about, I mean, obviously your podcast, Chasing Childhood, it's great. I think it captures the beautiful parts of childhood, because we all, you know, you suffered a lot of trauma, but I like that you can go back and focus on the beautiful parts, and you can laugh about it. And I just love the relationship you two have as podcast hosts. Like you do both have very like different senses of humor, but it's also complementary. I love it, and it's very wholesome. And I wanted to ask, before we say goodbye, thinking back to your childhood selves, is like, what, oh fuck, I can't, let me try to say this in a way that makes sense. What is something that you have done today that your childhood self would be most like surprised and or proud of, for your mental health specifically?
That is a hard question.
I know. I
need approximately 13.5
Oh my God,
minutes.
there's a cat. There's a cat just off screen. I can
Is Libby there? Where's Libby?
Hi, can you say hello? You just want to be pet.
Is that,
okay.
What's their name? Libby?
Liberty.
Yeah. Oh, Liberty. That was my son.
Yeah.
Liberty. Yeah. She was born on the 4th of July. So
she's the cutest. That's one thing I was sad about having to be in my car. I was like, you don't get to see my dogs. They're like literally the main characters of my life. They're so cute.
Next time I can come on y'all's podcast and we can talk about some
Oh my God, that'd be so fun.
That'd be awesome.
I have a few ideas for movies to cover, but but anyway, back to, you're not getting
coming soon,
so
everyone.
Easily.
Coming soon.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I would be most proud of behaviors and toxic reactions that I have unlearned. I think I would be most proud because I think, like Lex, when I first got out, I was very combative and I had a lot of really bad habits. You know, I drank too much. I partied too much. I wanted attention from so many people that that I didn't get and the validation I didn't get. And I think the fact that I can self-validate now and that I can tell myself like, you actually did a really good job at this. And actually like you handled this situation really well. And you had the right amount of compassion and the right amount of care. And you have friends who are actually your friends because they like you. And because they like what you bring, and you're a good friend to people, and you're a good sister to your brother, and you're a good wife to your husband. And, you know, there's just so many things that I think I still sometimes not perfect. I still catch myself doing things and responding in ways that like, I know my mom would respond or my dad would respond.
Yeah.
And,
that's
but I think
happen.
Yeah. Just
our
like
parents are part of us, you know, as much as we hate to admit it, like that's just the facts.
I think allow their traits to be part of you, and know that like they helped construct you, but you don't have to turn into them, you know? You don't have to if you don't want to. And I'm just proud of myself for like making the boundary of like, I moved across the freaking country at 22 years old, and I made an entire life for myself, and I established boundaries and made healthy decisions. And I'm still in the mentality of like, I can keep growing. Like you can never stop growing. So
never stop growing.
Yeah. All of that. Like I'd be super proud of myself. I'm like trying to like say nice things to myself.
Here for this.
All right.
What about you, Lex?
I think on my end, it would probably be very similar to what Steph said, but more becoming more independent and trying, like Steph said, the validation aspect of the whole thing. Like, I feel like I still sometimes fall into that where I call my mom if I have a question about something, or I call my mom if I feel like if I have a job opportunity. She's one of the first people I turn to that I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? Da, 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 da. But just knowing and reminding myself constantly that, hey, you're an adult. You can actually make these decisions for yourself now. You don't have to ask anyone else right now.
You don't need permission.
You don't need permission for things.
It's one thing, like there's nothing wrong with asking for advice. But, you know, if you rely 100% on that and don't trust yourself, that's like another issue.
Right.
But I definitely do find myself almost in the same way that my grandpa used to, where he kind of like shot himself in the foot a lot of times. And he was like, hey, I'm a diabetic, but I'm still doing this. Like over the pandemic, I'm like, I want to eat healthier, but then I find myself ordering like Taco Bell and stuff like that. So
that's like, all of us in the pandemic.
Yeah. The panini doesn't count.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where like I'm still working on trying to, like I said before, be more empathetic, and then also more self-care, you know, like I need to take care of myself, because if I don't, I'm going to end up the same way he did. So
that's sobering.
Those are definitely things that I'm trying to work on now. But for younger me to look at myself now and be proud, I would probably say the fact that I haven't given up yet, or fully given into the trauma from my childhood, because it was very easy for me to stay. I feel like one thing about people from where Steph and I are from is I feel like it's one of those places, if you live there through college, you kind of get stuck there. You never
don't leave.
My parents didn't leave. They met there. They grew up there. They're not leaving anytime soon. So a lot of my friends have been stuck there. So I feel like younger me would be proud of just leaving and trying to make a new life for myself somewhere else where no one knows me, you know, like I think that's kind of invigorating and kind of exciting, like going somewhere new and being like, no one knows me here. I get to write my own narrative.
You both did that. That's hard.
Yeah. So you know, it's actually really funny. My mom, for all the crap she gave when we moved, actually told me, I think it was like a year ago, she mentioned on the phone, she was like, you know, I'm actually really glad that you guys went out and like moved across the country. She goes, because now you guys actually do have lives that are so separate from everybody's and for yourselves. My mom is doing like a lot of healing right now. So she is also like starting to like make sense.
For her.
But she was like, I'm just really like happy that you guys did that, because now when you guys come back, you guys will be separate, independent people from everybody else. And I think there will be still like a growth period where she's going to think that like I exist only for her as like an emotional support animal again. But I think that, I think it was just like sobering, because I was like, for all the crap that we got for like moving away and everybody being like, this is such a betrayal, to now hear like, actually, this was actually a really good thing that you did. And I'm actually happy that you did it. Like, it was so, like, I didn't need the validation from her, but it was nice to hear that, like, yeah, I did make the right choice. And, everybody knew at the time, I think, that it was a good choice. They just didn't want to accept it. And so, I'm proud of us. Look at us.
Want to accept it.
No,
Who would have thought we would have been
look
here?
At you.
Yeah, look at us. Look at us go.
Where can people find you on the socials?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Go look at our selfies. So we're at Chasing Childhood Podcast on Instagram. We're also at just the words Chasing Childhood on Facebook.
Yeah.
You can follow both of us. I think both of our personal URLs are in the Instagram bio. So you can follow. I don't want to have to like spell our last names.
I know.
Our last names are very long.
You don't have to do that.
I know. Steph and I both suffer from that last name thing where no one knew how to say our last names growing up. So
very Italian and very Polish. Like they're both.
Yes, I would get DiGiorno all the time. I'm like, that's just racist. Like, that is stereotyping.
Oh my God.
Terrible.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so we definitely found a creative outlet in our podcast. We take a lot of pride in it. We both love film, and we both love watching stuff that we used to watch growing up and making fun of it, basically. So if you guys like that kind of thing, definitely check us out.
Yes, it's amazing. You make me
We
laugh
watch a lot of movies.
I remember you did one on fucking Shark Tale. And I was like, no one else, like, I haven't thought of that movie in like a decade, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, if you can think of a movie from your childhood, no matter how obscure, they've probably covered it or will cover it.
Yeah, or will cover it.
And
we
you
have
take
a list.
Suggestions too, right?
We do. Yeah, we love suggestions. DM us. Like literally just pop into our DMs and be like, hey, you guys are annoying. You haven't done this movie. Right. We'll be like, you're completely right. We will do it right now.
Awesome. Love that. Well, do you have anything to add before we say goodbye?
Thank you so much for having us.
I still have like shock. I'm almost starstruck. I'm like, we're here.
I know.
Like,
that's how I feel. Are you
talking to her right now?
Yeah. Because we really only connected through Instagram. Like, we've liked each other's posts constantly. And when you were like, we're looking for new like hosts this next season, I was like, yes. Stephanie!
Dude, literally, I will talk to anyone and everyone. Everyone has a story. Yes. I totally believe that. It's just important to have the conversations and laugh at ourselves, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just a 30-year-old with back problems, you know? I'm just a normal person. I'm just an addict with back problems and two cats, and yeah.
Wait, where are your cats? Are they?
They're not here. I'm at my parents' house because I live in a tiny apartment with like hardwood floors, so the acoustics are terrible. So I have a habit every Sunday. I come here to record, and I just happened to be here today. I was like, might as well just do it here.
Hey, that's nice.
It's like you said you're cold. I'm hot. It's like boiling in here. So.
No, the only reason why I'm freezing and I'm in my car, my sister decided to vacuum the entire house like 2 minutes before we joined the Zoom call, and I was like, no, I gotta go. Like, I was like, whoop. Gotta go.
It's fine. Like, the thing about podcasting is, I'm sure y'all know, it's never perfect. I have so much respect for people who like podcast full time and work and all this stuff. I don't know how they do it, because I just devote like 1 or 2 days a week to it, and I can barely do that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
it's not perfect, and that's fine. You know, and y'all sounds great anyway. So
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Check out Chasing Childhood, y'all, and say goodbye to Liberty. Liberty is the star of this show.
She really is so cute.
Yeah, you guys can watch this on YouTube and see Liberty in person. It's great.
You know what? Just zoom, like, go all the way to the end so you can see Liberty, and then go to the beginning and listen, because like it's what she deserves.
Yes, agreed. Well, I'll yeah. All right, y'all have a good night, I guess. Afternoon, night.
You too. Yeah. You too. Yeah, what time is it there, Steph? It's like 5:30?
It's 11:20 in the morning.
Oh.
3 hours behind.
I was about to say it's 5:20. Like,
yeah, no, but you're so close.
Snaps for Lex.
Yay! Living the dream, guys.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Bye. You too.
You too.
Hello, friends. It's Christina again. As always, thank you for listening. If you want to support Pickles and Vodka, you can give us a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Pickles and Vodka Podcast. If you could relate to anything at all we talked about today, or you just want to say hi, email me at picklesandvodkapodcast@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at Pickles and Vodka Podcast. Stay safe and have a good week. Bye.